Hello, I'm David DeLugas, the $99 lawyer. Today and every Thursday, I will take one of your questions from Facebook and answer it in a way that perhaps will help a lot of people. So, on Facebook, please post your question, and maybe next week I'll be answering your question. So, what's this week's question? My soon-to-be ex-husband wants us to share the sports and other expenses for our kids, each paying one half. Is this a good idea? Well, my answer, and be sure to read the disclaimer that rolls at the end, is that other than healthcare expenses, no, this is not a good idea. I suggest you not share children's expenses. Now, I'll explain another time why you do want to share and split healthcare expenses. But for now, let's go back to school, extracurricular activities, and those things such as sports, music, dance, karate, cheer. Now, a lot of people post-divorce have problems just because of their communications with the other parent. A lot of the dynamics that existed during the marriage that led to the divorce still persist. So one of the goals you should have in reaching your agreement, or when you ask the judge to enter a particular order, is to minimize the number of times and the occasions when you have to communicate on subjects that give rise to conflict. Now, one of the ways in which I can illustrate is this. Let's say that the mom buys a pair of football cleats for their son and sends the receipt to the dad and says, hey, please reimburse me for half, like our agreement says or the court order says. But the dad decides, no, wait a minute, you didn't get the right pair of football cleats, or you could have bought these at another store for considerably less, so I'm not going to reimburse you at all, or I'm only going to reimburse you half of the lowest price that I was able to find when I went on the internet and searched. I'm going to give you another example. Perhaps the dad enrolls the daughter in guitar lessons and wants to be reimbursed for half of that. But the mom realizes or believes that the dad is enrolling the daughter in guitar lessons because the dad plays guitar. And in fact, the child prefers being in dance, which is what the mom wants. So the mom has either a reason to be critical of what the dad's done or to complain about or try not to reimburse one half of the expenses. In any event, what then happens is communications that may not be very pleasant. One or both of them goes to an attorney. Perhaps the person paying child support, let's say the dad's paying child support, he deducts what he thinks he should be reimbursed by the mom, which incidentally, in any jurisdiction I know of, you're not allowed to do that, but parents do exactly that type of thing. And then the mom doesn't have as much money coming in as child support. She's bothered and offended, and yes, maybe it's only $50 or $100, but by golly, he's not going to get away with that. And we have attorneys getting involved. A contempt action gets filed. Attorney's fees are being expended. And yes, the children are aware of the conflict and the problems. And you know what? It's about the karate lessons. It's about the pair of golf shoes. It's about new tennis balls for your daughter's tennis matches and such. And this really just isn't worth it. So, how do you handle these expenses? Well, one of the recommendations and what has proven true over the years that works better for parents, now granted, if you get along well with your spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse, you can do such a thing as split expenses, but be prepared to have these types of conflict. But if each of you pays the expenses of the child during the times the child is with you, including the registration and participation in certain activities, or your agreement allows each of you to pick one activity per season and one parent pays all of that, and you work out in advance on balance over a long period of time, depending on how many years of minority you have left, it'll balance out close enough that it makes sense to do it this way and not get into penny counting and wanting everything to be as precise as maybe it feels like it ought to be, because gee whiz, you're both parents, right? But in fact, if you take that into account, then it won't be a problem in the future. Now, sometimes people say, well, what about child support? My suggestion is to look at your state's schedules, guidelines, and rules and regulations regarding child support. Most often, that will include that the child support provides for all the expenses that the custodial parent pays for, and many times the person paying the child support insists, well, I shouldn't have to pay anything extra. Whatever the case is, make sure that your agreement or court order spells this out and is very clear as to what is and what is not included in the child support, meaning child support shall cover the expenses of the child, and that the paying parent shall not pay any additional amounts toward extracurricular activities and the like. Or it says that the child support is to be paid, however, with regard to, and list what the areas are or the items are that the two of you are going to continue to split, again, either half and half or in some pro rata proportion associated with your income and financial status. So that's what you want to do. You want to avoid areas where the two of you will have problems in the future. In general, after a divorce, neither parent should have to justify to the other parent the decisions that they're making. So the fewer instances where the parents after divorce get to pick at, criticize, or question what the other parent did, including what was spent and on what, the better for the children and the parents. Just make sure that the agreement or court order addresses those issues, those expenses, so both parents are on the same page, because if either parent goes to an attorney, what the attorney charges will be more than what the expenses are that you're fighting over, and everyone loses except, of course, the attorneys. Now, if I can answer any specific question for you, consider booking a session with me, the $99 Lawyer. Thank you very much. And don't forget to post your question, and maybe it'll be yours that we answer next week. Thanks.